Hello, everyone. What the hell? Hello, everyone. This is Donna Savage with Talk with Savage Desires. And tonight we have two phenomenal, handsome young men that's joining me tonight to talk about the poly community. Hi, Rob. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Don?
I'm amazing. Where's Mr. Chief?
He's coming in right now. He was finishing up a photo shoot for something that we're launching soon, and he just texted me and let me know he's going to tap in a couple of seconds. He's just getting set up.
That's okay. So in the meantime, I can get to know you. So for those who
Yes,
are
yes.
joining us right now, hi, this is Rob. Is it Rob? Robert?
Just Rob is fine.
Rob is fine. So Rob is
Yep.
the CEO of Melanin Poly Nation, correct?
Well, I'm one of the partners. Me and Chief are partners. So
You're in chief of
yeah, he's actually the CEO, and I help him with all the marketing and the CFO.
Welcome, Chief.
There he is.
There
Hey, how you
he
doing?
is.
Sorry,
I'm
I had a
good.
photo shoot right before. I'm trying to get adjusted in the studio.
That's okay. I'm just glad that you could hop on. So as I was mentioning, so Rob and Chief
Yeah.
are two polyamorous. I'm gonna say. Should I say polyamorous? You know what? Before we
Well,
do
I'm
all of that, before
yeah.
we do all of that and jump into the juicy stuff,
Okay.
so
Okay.
so I'm going to be talking about the experience between the polyamorous lifestyle or the polyamorous respective of how you guys think it is,
Okay.
and because a lot of people just hear the word polyamorous and have no idea what it means.
Right.
So we kind of wanted
Yeah.
to break down, and I'm really curious though before we start getting to the juicy stuff, how does one get into something like this?
Okay. For I'll
You want to
start. For
start?
me, it was it's kind of something that you always know you are based on how you approach relationships. So, um, for me, I was always big on being honest in my relationships, and I was always capable of having a relationship with more than one woman and it not causing havoc in my life or their lives. And there was always like honesty and communication. I just didn't have the language and the terminology for it. So I would just say I was dating two women.
Mm.
And they knew about each other. Most of the time they had each other's phone numbers. Sometimes they were very friendly, sometimes they weren't. But for me, it was just something that made sense to me. But I just didn't know how to express it with the right vocabulary.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you just for a second, but let me hear from Mr. Chief here because he seems
Okay.
like the baby of the group right now, and I'm really curious. How I know everything is on the millennium and all them nice things, but Chief, what's your experience?
Well, it's kind of similar to what he was saying. I've always been the type that, would always try to have multiple, girlfriends or things like that, but not in the most ethical, of ways growing up, because I didn't know that you could really be that way and still, do, have those type of relationships. So as I kind of, grew older and matured and kind of found this lifestyle, it just fit perfectly with something that I was comfortable doing, but I wanted to do openly. You know what I mean? And then you attach the family building part to it as well, and it was pretty much a perfect match.
You know what? I'm hearing what you guys are saying. Okay, and I'm going to be the woman in the group because I know how crazy as women how we are, right?
Okay.
So here I am as a woman, and I'm so in love with one of you guys, and so initially I'm thinking, it's just me and you, and then all of a sudden you're gonna say, you know what, Donna, I don't like the one-on-one thing. How does that conversation go across? Because boy, I don't think I'm gonna say Rob bye. But that's just me. I don't know if it's an old paradigm or how we were brought up, but how did the women?
Well, in my case, a lot of times I was, they already know that the other one exists. They kind of just think that over time, the other one will get tired of it. And then what happens is over time, they don't get tired of it. And then it's just it kind of moves into, well, maybe we can be comfortable with each other. So and sometimes they like, you'll be in a relationship and they'll walk away and then they'll try to date someone else and it's not the same, the connection, the energy, the communication, the honesty. So it's like once a woman is used to a certain level of honesty,
Mhm.
when they go to another man that is doing something less ethical or not honest, and they kind of like catch on, like, wait a minute, this guy is seeing more than just me. The only difference is now I have no power, no honesty, no communication, and I'm just in limbo. A lot of times they say, well, it was better over here. At least over here, I know everything that's going on. He's being honest, and I have options if I want to stay with him or leave. He's not lying to
Mhm.
me. So in my case, I really, that's like the best case scenario. The worst case scenario, you have sometimes where the women, because they know about each other, they'll try to compete. And I don't like that personally. And it's kind of like, you're not going to compete. It's not a competition. I'm not like a prize or something that you can like stick in a drawer. I'm not an object. I'm a person.
I
So
was going to ask you about that. I was going to ask you if there's tiers of this relationship. So, bear with me.
yeah,
So, is there tiers, or is it, everybody's on the same wavelength in terms of
Uh,
you
it's
guys?
it's
you want to
supposed
take
to
that,
be
Chief?
balanced. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? A lot of people don't do it that way. Come to find out, but the way it's supposed to be done, it's supposed to be balanced. You know what I mean? Fairness. Things can't always be equal, but they can be fair. You know what I mean? And everybody can get what it is that they deserve out of the relationship. And like as far as you were saying, how does it feel kind of getting into it? How do the women react? In my age range, it's kind of been a little different because I was able to get into it, without previously like already having a situation, or anything like that. So all the women that come to me or that I go forward with, they're already hip, to the poly lifestyle and already agree with it. And so it's a little simpler that way when you catch it a lot
Right,
younger than when you get older. And a lot of couples, they might be 5 years, 7 years in, and then decide they want to be poly. And I'm sure
Mhm.
in that situation, it's a lot more difficult to kind of balance it out.
Mhm. Someone is saying, Chief, that your volume is a little bit low, so they can hardly hear you, Chief. You know what? I hear what you're saying, but although they're younger, when you grew up in a household seeing mommy or daddy or mom by herself or dad by themselves, you're thinking it's always monogamous relationship. And these were what we were taught, monogamous, monogamous.
right,
You know what I mean? So how does one convert one from saying, this seemed to be the norm, but now all of a sudden now it's a total, it's different, and it's like a push and pull,
right.
you
Well,
know?
for me, it was just really honest conversations, and not so much trying to convert them, but to ask questions and then let them come to their own conclusions.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a lot of relationships, I mean, the number one reason for divorce is infidelity. And then after infidelity, it's usually finances.
Mm-hmm.
So, 9 times out of 10, if you're having a conversation with a woman and she comes from a monogamous background, 90% of them, those women in their family, there's some version of infidelity that's either happened or has happened in the past. So it's kind of one of those things where you just ask a question where you're like, listen, this is something that is obviously a problem for, you know, 99% of men. They want more than one woman.
Mm-hmm.
You have options. So we can pretend that it doesn't exist. You
Mm-hmm.
can you can just say, you know what? I'm gonna find the 1% man that is gonna give me everything I want financially, emotionally, and he wants to be monogamous, and he's never gonna stray from that agreement between me and him.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can ask yourself a question: out of all the men you know, how many of them have never been in a plural relationship? Now, I don't want to say cheated because some people actually are honest about what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
They come to an agreement between their wife and themselves or their girlfriend and themselves. So all I'll say is like a plural relationship where they have a relationship with more than one woman. And if
Mm-hmm.
you ask that question to all the women, most of them will say 90 to 95% of the men that they know either have a girlfriend and a side chick, or a girlfriend and another girlfriend, or a wife and a work wife. Someone where there's an additional relationship. It may not even be sexual, but there's an
Mhm.
additional feminine energy in that man's universe.
Mhm.
So once you kind of like start asking these questions and they start really thinking back on their relationships, they're like, I've probably been cheated on 8 out of 10 of my relationships, or I caught them talking to someone on social media, or so you start going through those questions and you're like, well, I'm the type of man where I'm not gonna lie to you. Not only am I not gonna lie to you, I'm gonna introduce you to whoever else is in my universe so you know exactly what's going on. And then I'm not going to trap you in a monogamous relationship and say, you have to be with me and you have to be every single thing I need for the rest of my life. I'm not going to say that to you. What I'm going to say is, whoever you are as a person, I want you to give me 100% of the best version of you. I don't want you to change anything. I've accepted you and I love you just the way you are. I'm not looking to change you. Now, this other partner that I have, I love her as 100% of who she is. And she has qualities that you don't have, and that's okay. I don't need you to change your qualities. I don't need you to do anything. I need you to be the best version of you, and you're going to get all the love that you need from me. And when,
So, so I'm
yeah,
hearing that you can be in love with more than one woman, is what you're saying.
yeah,
And they did, and so describe love. Love is as in physical, or is it heartfelt love? Like, I'm just trying to understand.
it's both. I mean, for me, it's both. So
Mhm.
the physical love is the easy part. That's easy. Everyone can figure that part out.
Uh,
But it's the emotional part where it's an unconditional love for a person at their best and at their worst. And then the honesty is it's real honesty, it's vulnerable honesty where you're telling a person, hey, listen, I know that as a woman, you're getting hit on, you're getting talked to every single day by 100 men that are gonna promise you a faithful monogamous relationship. I'm telling you that I'm not that man. I'm going to be in a poly relationship. And every single day you walk out the house, you have to choose to be with me because at any point you can always go back over there and be in a monogamous relationship. So when you're that honest with a woman and they're like, you know what, you're right. Like this is my choice every day to either stay with you over here and there's honesty and there's communication and there's openness, or I can go over here and wonder what this person is doing when I'm not around.
is it okay for her to date someone else as well?
You want to take that one, Chief?
Depends on your dynamic.
Yeah.
It
Break
just
it down
depends
for
on
me,
your
Chief.
dynamic.
Break it
Like a
down.
lot of women, of course, obviously, a lot of women, obviously, they always try to say, oh well, the men are stopping us from, what about another guy, and it's you can have as many guys as you want, you know what I mean, as many
Mm.
as you can find that are on the same vision and the same time that you're on. Then nobody's stopping. Now it might be a lot of men in a certain part of the poly spectrum that might be against it, but ain't nobody stopping you. You know what I mean? And for
Mhm.
me, you do what you do. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
If you want to add another husband and then he add another girlfriend and then y'all add, if it works, it works. You know what I mean? That's just not what's in my dynamic. And I think that's one thing that's hard as a male being polygamous or polygynous and explaining that
Mhm.
like even for my page, we support, you know what I mean, and we love every polytype and monogamous and everybody else,
Right.
Mhm.
we just have the poly lifestyle that we live in, and that's
Right.
polygamy and that's polygyny. You know what I mean? Polyamory, we don't speak on it and do too much on it because that's not where our in-depth knowledge is at. You know what I mean? We didn't
Mhm.
really do, we didn't really study on
The
that. As we were
research.
coming into the lifestyle, we found where you know what
Right.
I mean?
Got you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
And I think that's the important part, especially for the audience to understand, is that um, people in every type of poly. So there's polyamory, there's polygyny, which is multiple wives,
Mhm.
and then there's polyandry, which is multiple husbands
Mhm.
or male partners.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not judging the people over here or over here. I'm just saying my preference is here.
Mhm.
So when I'm dating or I'm looking for a woman, it's no different than monogamy. In monogamy, you're looking for someone that shares the same values. So the women that we look for, they want a sister wife and they want to be with one man. We're not forcing them or even telling them that they can't. When they come to us or we come to them, we're saying, this is the polydynamic that I'm looking for. Is this what you're looking for?
Just out of this, there go.
And they're usually saying back that they're saying to me, well, this is the dynamic I'm looking for. Is this what you're looking for? Because I don't want another husband. I want one husband and I want a sister wife. I don't want two husbands. And I think
Wow.
people
I
in
want to ask.
monogamy, they always go to that like, well, can she have two husbands? And it's like she doesn't want two husbands. If she wanted two husbands, she would have went and found a man that wants to do polyandry. She went and found a man that wants to do polygyny, so she doesn't want another husband.
I need to ask you about all that, but before we're going further, Colleen, one of the audience is saying, with so many partners intertwined, do you not have concern about sexually transmitted disease?
No, we use protection. So, like any other relationship, if it's not a relationship where you're in the same household and you've agreed to not have other sexual partners, then we use protection. But you have to understand, with the level of honesty that you have in the relationship, our risk is a little bit lower because there's an openness about what we're doing in our sexual behaviors. Where in some monogamous relationships, because people are lying and doing stuff behind other people's back, that you don't know whether you should be protecting yourself or whether you should be using contraceptive, because you just assume that your partner is only sleeping with you. But if he has a side chick or another girlfriend that he's been dealing with a year or 2 years or 3 years, do you really think he's using a condom every day?
You know, I have to agree with you, Rob, because it's so, as you said, with people who are pretending to be, who are monogamous, because of the untruth that happens in their old relationship,
right?
It's a lot of heart aches, crying, mental breakdown. So I see where you're going and what you're saying in this regard. And you too, Chief, you're not saying too much, but I'm going to get at you. Colleen is saying, how does time management work?
Chief, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I say so. Time management. I mean, it's like anything else. People make it seem like because it's more people, you're juggling just so much more. You're juggling multiple people even without that. You're gonna juggle your job. If you got kids, you're gonna juggle that time. If you got relatives that live nearby in the same state, you're gonna juggle that time. They're gonna have events. They're gonna have birthdays, graduations. You know what I mean? You're gonna always juggle your time amongst different sets of people. It's a little bit more often now that you got more people living in your household, but it's the same thing. Everybody signed up to be together. So you're going to spend a good 80%, of your time together. And then, depending on how your queens are, they might want some separate time or a separate day or a separate vacation or this and that. And you just schedule that out. You know what I mean? And you just, as the man in like polygamous and polygynous situations, you got to make sure that you're able to provide balance, that you ain't going on 4 trips with her. You know what I mean? And then your other queen is sitting over here and she ain't on the trip. You know what I mean? And stuff like that. You got to balance it out. You got to balance their time. And for me, like I have a queen, and then I'm dating another queen right now, and they're across the country. So I have to. My time in is even crazier, trying to run a business and then make sure I can communicate with them.
Wow.
3 hours away. You know what I mean? So,
I guess
it's a real lot of work. It's something that you got to.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
Right.
And I guess that answers Kat's groove question, because she was asking about equal attention. So everything that you said kind of break everything down in regards to attention. Colleen, the fact that there are so many single women speaks volume. We are taught that one man to one woman. I don't believe that. Ladies, it's an interestingly awesome lifestyle. Once I'm treated the way I'm deserved to be treated, I'm good. There you go.
Right.
Down your bandwagon.
Right. And that's the thing is, because a lot of people haven't.
Most of the queens are.
They haven't been introduced, or they don't have access to people that they actually know that are in the relationship. So they only know what they see on TV or what they see on social media. So once you really connect with a couple and the women are loved and cherished and the honesty is there, and you can ask those questions of people that are actually in the relationship, what you'll find, you'll look at your relationship like, well, why is my husband not that honest with me? And how come my boyfriends don't include me in this and in that? You start looking at the situation like, I need some more honesty, or I need some more communication. Like, I don't know none of this stuff.
You know what? Explain to me the sister wives thing. What's the
Okay.
sister? What's sister wife? Is it your wife and then their sisters, like in relationship? What
Well,
does that mean?
so sister wife is a term where the women are not sexually active with each other by choice. So, and that's the thing. It's a
Ah,
big misconception that in order to be polygamous, that the women are always bisexual. They're not always bisexual. Sometimes the women are just strictly heterosexual, and they both love the same man. So that's where the term sister wife came in. Now, there's another term where they say co-wives, and in some circumstances, co-wives are also bisexual and they interact with each other in a romantic way. So, but again, there's two types. So there's biromantic, which means they're bisexual, but only in the romantic way. So they like going on dates. They hold hands, they hug, they kiss, but they're not sexual.
sexual.
And then there's fully bisexual, where they're intimate with each other, no different than a man and a woman is intimate with each other.
Hmm.
So
Like,
in polygyny, it's more often than not sister wives, where the two women are heterosexual and they're in love with the same man. In polyamory or polygamy, a lot of times, one of the women are bisexual.
wow. And that was funny. I was going to ask you to break down each and every one of them, and you just did that for me. Cat's Groove was going to, I guess you answer Cat's Groove question again, because she's saying, are those separate relationship or a melting pot in the bed? But you just broke it down.
It depends. Every
Yeah.
every dynamic is different. For the most part, um, here- you know, I don't want to make it seem like it's church and state, because it's not. Some
Hmm.
relationships, the women are even if they're not sexual with each other, there's different things that they like. So some women are voyeurs. So they
Hmm.
may not want to be sexual with the woman, but they want to watch. And so it could that could be a melting pot, even if they're not physically touching the other woman. Some
Hmm.
women, they separate that sexual relationship completely, where the husband has days with one wife and he has other days with another wife, and they don't want to combine it or interact with it at all. So every dynamic is set up for that couple's success and what they're comfortable with. No man is forcing them to sleep in the same bed and sleep with each other at the same time. No woman is going to agree to that in reality.
Exactly, because I'm thinking, okay, are everybody sleeping together,
You,
having sex
you ain't
together,
got no
eating at the
Nah.
time for
table
that.
together? Because I know in some African
It,
culture and other cultures they
and it,
do that, right? So in my head,
you
I'm
know,
thinking, it's the North American way. It's like,
absolutely.
what?
Nah.
Oh, okay, so Lorenzo just came on. He said, I just came on. What
Probably
happens if you get
crazy.
married?
Yeah.
I don't know if that question was already asked. What if you're married?
Chief, you want to take that one?
What do you mean? Yeah.
So with
So I
marriage,
mean, for polygynous men, and you're looking for that, and you know, because you can't have more than one marriage contract. It's all up to contracts just within itself,
Mm,
trust and things like that you can set to make things fair. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm,
Because obviously you can only have one marriage contract,
mm-hmm.
and most
well,
most of the
Chief,
couples
just to give
are
you a
like
heads
that.
up,
Well,
one second, and
go
if
ahead.
Chief is on the
Go
West
ahead.
Coast. On the East Coast, which is in driving distance for me, Massachusetts now recognizes poly relationships where you can have multiple marriage partners in
That makes sense.
Massachusetts.
Wow, look at
So
that.
every state is different. So I can live in New Jersey and have a marriage license with my first wife in New Jersey. I can
Hmm.
drive to Massachusetts and have a marriage license with my second wife in Massachusetts, and it's legal like any other marriage.
Wow. So it's only two wives, or could you go even more than two wives, or
Yeah.
girlfriends, or
Yeah,
It's
group
absolutely.
preference. Me
preference?
personally, 2 to 3 is like my limit.
That's how you can handle it, Rob.
Yeah, I don't want any more than 2 to 3. That's me personally.
Colleen is asking, what if one of your women had a bad day or feeling down and need your presence, and one of the other women are also going through the same thing? How are you going to deal with the balance in that regards?
Well, I've had that happen a bunch of times. And really, what it comes down, I'm self-employed, so because and that's another thing with polygamy, and you need to have control over your schedule, because if you don't have control over your schedule, it's going to be very challenging to manage a larger family, because you have each woman has kids, you have kids, and then you're dealing with two other adult women and their emotions and everything that they go through with their day. So you need the time and to be able to move your schedule around to take the phone calls and to have the conversation. So I mean, it never it like in theory people do like all these what ifs,
Hmm.
but it's very rare that the phone rings at the exact same time and they're both having a bad day at the exact same time. Most of the time, it's like one will go in and something happens in the morning at work, and then you're having a conversation. And then maybe the other one, when they came home from work, they're telling you about something that happened during that day. It's very rare that your phone rings and it's like something's happening bad at the same time.
Rob, I'm going to tell you, be prepared. Be prepared for the unexpected. And you too. It's just like when two women are living in the same house, their period would come at the same time.
Oh,
Just be
that's happened.
prepared.
I've experienced that.
See?
I've experienced, that's
Carol
va-
is.
Yeah.
that's
Go,
vacation week. I go on vacation. I say I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Carol is saying, loving this because of how open our generation is. We can have an honest discussion about this versus the secrecy, fact versus fiction. I
Right,
so agree with Carol on that.
right.
So agree with Carol on that.
And that's cool. Our generation's a little bit different. It's funny because before the interview, I was with my father, and my father, he was in the 70s and the 80s, and I have 11 brothers and 3 sisters, and my father had 5 women. So he got kids with
It's coming
5
from
women.
somewhere, right?
But it was not ethical. It wasn't ethical, and it caused havoc in
I can
all of
only
our
imagine.
lives,
I can imagine.
because he wasn't being honest with the women. So watching that experience as I grew older, I was like, well, first I don't know if I want more than one woman, and then I figured out that I do. Um, and then once I figured out that I did, I was like, I am not doing it that way, because that didn't work out for him very well. So now in this generation of women, um, when you do have the conversation, you'll be very surprised how open they are to at least hearing you out. And then what they'll do is they're going to judge whether they want to be involved in a relationship based on the man's character. So if they look at his character and say, you know what, I can trust what he's saying, and I can try this, you know,
Hmm.
and usually what you'll find is the other queen that's in the situation wants you there. So she, it's not like she's pushing you out.
Hmm.
I'm bringing them to the situation and I'm saying, listen, this is, her, and this is her, and she's like, well, welcome. I'm glad that you're here. Let me tell you how everything is going on around here. And it's like usually with a woman coming in, it's like a shock. It's like, oh my
Oh,
God, I can't
no,
believe
fight
that.
it.
Like what he said is true. Like she wants me to be here. So they're in the kitchen and they're making dinner together, and
And having fun.
yeah, and they're not fighting with each other. They're not battling over me. They're making
Wow.
schedules to go grocery shopping, and one of them doesn't like laundry, and the other one does. So this one is doing everybody's laundry in the house, and the other one is doing all. So it's there.
It's a
That's what
community.
right.
Well, Carrie, she says, loving this conversation. I think you are speaking about the different streams of ethical non-monogamy, polyandry and polyamory, open relationships, swinging all fall under the poly lifestyle.
I don't know about swinging. I won't say that. Swinging is a little bit different.
Yeah, it is a little bit different. I'm sorry. There's so much questions going across
I
here.
mean,
Yeah.
even
She was saying. She also said, "I think Polly is
now they
going to
all
save the black
follow
family."
under ethmonogamy.
I'm sorry. What was that, Chris? Chief?
It can.
What can you keep chipping out on me? Oh
Well,
my god.
He's saying that it all falls under ethical non-monogamy. So all of
Okay.
those things that she described, it
Mm-hmm.
all falls under the umbrella of ethical non-monogamy.
Okay. 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 Logic says facts. You believe it 100%. For those who are joining me, I guess you kind of get the gist of what we're talking about. We're talking about the polyamory community. Rob and Chief is from the States, and they're in that's their lifestyle, and they're just here to teach us and tell us a little bit about the particular lifestyle. Because for those that's in Canada, even if it's a big thing that's going on, it's not talked about. We don't know
Right.
anything about it, because even one of the audience is asking if it's prevalent in Canada. I've never heard of it. If it's here, I haven't seen it. So, to have a refreshing look
Um,
versus TV, because what I see on TV and what we're talking about is
Oh my God, it's
totally
messy.
different.
It's messy.
So
Yeah.
the way you guys break it down about being respectful and looking after each other, and because you're right, I've seen so many fights
Right.
over who said this and the secrecy, and you mentioned it earlier, Rob, that's not one of the number one reasons why a relationship break down is because of cheating and not be
Right.
authentically true.
Right.
And that's basically what this lifestyle is about. Is that you're going to be with me, this is who I am,
Right.
is that you're going to take me as I am or just move off, but at
Right.
least the conversation is upfront, right?
Right.
um Let me see if this person, Ray, peace family, chief, you should let the people know it's not easy lifestyle to maintain sometimes. LOL.
No, and that's the thing. We're not saying that it's easy, because I think it's the furthest thing from easy.
Mhm.
It's easy in a sense where I don't have to lie to anyone.
I think,
What were you saying, Chief?
yeah, it's honest.
Right.
You know what I mean? No, it's
That's
just
the
honest.
easiest part. Everything else is
This
just
is
like any other
honesty.
relationship.
Yeah. Colleen, how do you manage your woman's family? Do you interact at school, or do you divulge that there are multiple partners involved?
It's the same thing. It's
Same
honesty.
thing. Everything is honest right
Yeah,
across the
we
board.
don't like. So there's a queen I'm dating right now, and I can't make this up because this is really what's happening. She's talking to her Haitian grandmother, who is super Christian, super into family, and she told her grandmother, like, grandma, I'm poly, so this is what I want. I want a husband and I want a wife. And the grandmother is now asking more questions. So it's kind of one of those things where you don't really want to be with a woman that wants to lie to her family. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not lying to my family, and I'm not going to go to your house. And if your grandmom says, "Well, who is she?" I'm not going to lie. So you don't, as a man, you just don't put yourself in a relationship where the woman wants to lie.
It's true. Cats, Mennonites has been living in poly relationship right here in Canada for years. There you go. Mennonites has been doing it. Never thought they did, but there is one saying that theirs. So Canada was one of the
They
first to
say that
legalize gay
polyamory
lifestyle, and
is
polyamory
legal.
is a taboo here. It's a shame. But Canada is backwards. We're always backwards when it comes to certain things, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. This is very interesting. So I want to thank. Next time, though, I want to hear the woman's perspective on this lifestyle thingy.
Okay.
I would love to hear what they got to say. And I've been on Chief's site, and Chief, you do dating too. I see that you're advertising for dating, and have those beautiful men and women out there looking for partners and so forth. How is that? And I mean, they're okay showing their faces. you know do a lot of people hook you up or hit you up to be a part of the community?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, all the time. I mean, I guess the difference between the poly community and in America and everywhere else is that Americans just don't care. You know what I'm saying? Like America, we're gonna do what we're gonna do, and we're gonna live our life the way that we want to live it. You know what I mean? And the laws, depending on the year that you were born in, might
Mm-hmm.
be against it. You know what I mean? But you're gonna do what you want to do in order to be happy. And so, yeah, for us, it's fairly simple. A lot of the people just really want to find somebody. We have the discreet option that allows careers or that don't want to show their face, but a lot of people really get a lot of love. Our community is filled with love, so a lot of people get a lot of love that they really didn't even know was there. They're kind of hesitant, anxious, got anxiety, and I'm like, man, your post is gonna be amazing. Like it's gonna go crazy. It gets out there, and the people love it all the time. People generally tell me they have too many messages. You know what I mean? Like DMs are blowing up. You know what I mean? So I mean,
It's
they
so
loving it, and we've had a few matches thus far. I've been doing it maybe 3 years now.
Wow. Because you know what? We were just taught and brought up and to be shameful when it comes to sex anyways. And
Right.
now too, and that's why the whole secrecy of hiding, more than one woman and be upfront and being truthful. And
Right.
it's so for you guys to have this thing, I mean, some of them say it's been going on for years, but it's always kept quiet.
Right.
And now it's a new generation that people are bringing it out. This is who I am, love me or leave me.
Right.
Because you have the man who was out there is going to be authentically cheating on you anyways.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Well,
are you
for
going to
us,
be
for our generation, it's like, especially with the men, like therapy and being honest about emotions and trauma is becoming more socially acceptable, where the women aren't shaming the men for having emotions and feelings and issues from their childhood or whatever the case may be. So now we're it's okay for us to confront these things that we feel or we want.
Mhm.
And when you confront those things and you're honest about it, it's like, okay, do I really want to be and love one woman for the rest of my life?
I always heard that.
And like, is that really what I want, or is that what my mother and my pastor and my grandfather are telling me that I should want? And then once you kind of ask that question, then you look at those people and be like, well, my mother got cheated on by my father. My father had another woman, and my pastor had
Just sleeping
people.
with everybody in the church.
Right. So it's like all of these people that are telling me not to do, they're saying don't do this, but they're doing it.
Hmm.
So the only difference, so it's like, okay, and then that causes all this damage. So then at a certain point, you're like, why would I listen to them if they're doing the opposite of what they're telling me, and then they're
Hmm.
hurting everyone around them? Where I could just say, you know what, this is what I want. Do you want the same thing? And if the woman wants the same thing, then you're on the same page. But now everybody knows.
It's crazy. Carrie wants to know if there's any more of you guys. So I'm gonna hook her up to your site,
There you go.
Chief. Maybe you can fly over to the States.
Yeah.
Colleen,
Anymore.
even if open to this
Yeah,
lifestyle, my fam.
we got a team. Matter of fact, Ray's in the chat.
Ray, okay, I'm gonna pull up Ray just now. Colleen is saying, even if open to this lifestyle, my family would never accept the truth. I will not be sure how to please in the relationship and please my fam. So this is where we have to make choices.
You don't please your
Please your
family.
family.
You don't please them, and that's the thing.
Yeah.
At the end of the day,
Yeah,
you get one life.
Hmm.
And you are responsible
you do
for your
you.
happiness. And a lot of people, what they do is they put the responsibility on their spouse or their family or their pastor or their therapist, or
Hmm.
they put the responsibility of being happy on everybody else. And then when when one of the wisest things I've ever heard was when someone was on their deathbed, someone asked them, "What do you regret?" And the person that lived 90 plus years, and they didn't say, "I regret something I did." They regretted the things that they
That they
did
did not
not
do.
do.
Yeah,
And it was
it's true.
always based on seeking someone else's approval.
Yeah.
So me personally, I just made a decision. I'm not going to allow my pastor, my mother, my father, my grandfather, my friends, my family to decide what my happiness looks like. Either
Mm-hmm.
I don't even need or require your acceptance or permission. Like either
Mm-hmm.
you can choose to be a part of my life or not. I
Or
love
not.
you the same. I'm here. Here's my address. You know where I live. I'm gonna invite you to a barbecue if you want to come. Wife number one, wife number two. If you don't want to come, I get it. I can't.
I'm coming to the barbecue this summer.
Right. You come to the barbecue.
Ray now. So, Carrie, this is Ray. Ray said polygamy, in my opinion, can help save the black family. And I think Carrie said that too. So, Carrie meet Ray, Ray meet Carrie, and you guys connect.
Right.
Carol, if people were just honest and start their own community versus line of keeping a wife and a side chick, who knows if the wife would agree to have a poly relationship, but the conversation never happens, and that is true.
Right.
It never happens.
Right.
Never. Just like what you were mentioning, people are and Colleen too. We're so caught up in pleasing everybody else but ourselves,
Right.
and the way and how it looks.
Right.
Tradition versus new wave things. And actually, it's not even new wave. It's been around for many centuries.
Right.
It's just being talked about more now.
Well, polygyny is the oldest form of marriage on record.
Mm-hmm.
So initially, marriage was a contract, and this is the thing: women sometimes hold men to a traditional idea of marriage without actually doing the research of what a traditional marriage was about. Now, the original marriages had absolutely nothing to do with women. They were contracts
Property.
between two men.
Mm-hmm.
So a father and a potential groom would create an agreement. Usually it was to protect borders or to increase wealth.
Mm-hmm.
And to seal the agreement, the daughter was used to seal the agreement, and that was the marriage. And then now this wife would just have to show up at this husband's home, and
Mm-hmm.
now this is your husband. There was no romance that we see on TV. It was a legal and a contract between men, and over time it evolved into monogamy. But initially, a man would have multiple wives because it would increase his wealth and his territory. So polygyny or plural marriage was the original, form of marriage, but it had nothing to do with romance. Now, over time, we've, obviously it's healthy to have a relationship before you get married and you get to know your spouse. And so I don't think that that's how it should be done. But it's always funny to me when women say, well, I want a traditional marriage. And if you ask them, well, what is a traditional marriage?
They think
and
fairy
if you ask them
tale.
that question, they usually can't answer it. And it's like, well, why don't you go do some research on how
Yeah.
marriages started and then, 5,000 years ago and then come back to me.
Because it's most arranged marriages. Even
Right.
I mean, some cultures still do it.
Right.
Right?
It's so prevalent in a lot of cultures, right?
Wow.
Now again, I personally don't agree with it, but what I'm saying is
I get you.
when you have these conversations with women and they're like, well, I don't want that. I want a traditional marriage. Well, technically in a traditional marriage, your father would come to me with money and say, here's my daughter. She's beautiful. I'm going to give you some money and some land. And now you're responsible for taking care of my daughter and making sure her and her children never need anything again. And you had no say in who I was.
Mm-hmm.
That's traditional.
Mm-hmm.
Now, new age is we date, we get to know each other, we find out if we have similar values. Then after we date, we decide we're going to be exclusive or polygamous. And then after that, then we get married. That's new age.
Mm-hmm.
So really, people want new age. If they want traditional, and you read the Bible, There was no dating and all this other
No,
stuff.
just threw
There
you right
was
in.
you're married. There you go. We're gonna have a feast. Here's some additional land, and you get 50 rams,
And
and you're
that's done.
married.
And it's done. It's
That's
done.
it.
Oh my God. You know what? This is going great. Chief, you and I have to connect, and Rob, you and I too. And I know Chief have somewhere else to go. So we have to tighten this up.
Okay.
And so I'm going to thank both Rob. Thank you so much.
You're
Chief,
welcome.
thank you so much to agreeing with this. And I so appreciate it to spend your time with me tonight. And for those who are on here watching. So the gist of this is be you.
No,
If this
Yeah.
is what you want to do what you want to do. It's about you and nobody else.
Right.
Take charge of your life.
be-
Take charge of your life. If you've been hurt so many times and you can't either be alone or even be and curious about a lifestyle, hook up Rob and Chief. Connect with me and I'll connect you with them.
Right.
Because honestly, it's different for most of us.
Right.
And so
Well,
it
and
does.
also what we would advise, because a lot of times people think that because we're into polygamy or polygyny, we want to push everyone in monogamy into it. It's not right for everyone.
No, it's
So
not.
what we'll say is explore it with honesty, but take your time. You
Yeah.
don't have to jump into a relationship with a couple. You don't have to jump into a relationship with a man that this is what they want. Take your time before you become physical and sexual. Really get to know the person's character, and if they're honest and open with their relationship and what they want,
Hmm.
get to know the other woman and figure out is this someone that you could spend all of your quality time and manage a household together before you decide, oh, I want to be in a relationship.
Hmm.
Because we're not over here just trying to recruit everybody. Like, if it's right for you, then we
Hmm.
want to help you find a good couple that you could be in a healthy relationship. But if
Hmm.
it's not right for you, keep searching for someone that's going to be honest and upfront in their monogamous relationship. That's
Hmm.
all we're saying. So either way, you can be happy. Just be honest about it.
Yeah, you know what? You've said it from the beginning. You were just talking about your experience. I mean, we're not trying to throw polygamist or polyandry or whatever poly lifestyle to anyone. It's just as if we don't want a gay person throw their gay lifestyle at us.
Right.
It's an open conversation,
Right.
judgment-free zone.
Right.
All we're saying is be responsible, and the information is out there. If this is for you, it's out there for you. If it's for you, it is. If not, it's not.
Right.
Rob, Chief, thank you so much for joining me tonight. This is Donna Savage with Talk with Savage Desires. Please let me know if you watch this on the replay. Share. Let's have a conversation about it. And next time we meet up, we're going to have Chief, Rob, and maybe a couple female who's also in the lifestyle. Everyone have a great night.
Thank you, guys.